YMCK. Oh, no, we can't sing that anymore because they're like homophobic or something like that. Homophobic. I can't. I cannot. Why are people like this? So, okay, let me just say this. I try, generally, to keep my I just want to say blog. I try and keep my YouTube channel to be a very positive space. I don't want to shit on things that I don't like because personally, right, I do find that to be unhelpful. I do find that to be... Damn, my cat just had the zoomies. I do find it to be unhelpful. I do find it to be... I almost wanted to say uncooperative. I do find it to be very unhelpful, to be particularly negative. But that said, this is the internet. This is YouTube. We love a little bit of saltiness on this channel. Just a little salt. A little salt. So we are going to have a little salt today. And we are going to discuss my least favorite things this year. And we're going to start kind of in a similar vein. And we're going to talk about my least favorite things, particularly in tech. Okay? I think we all know where this is going to start. But in case you are not sure, we have to talk about how everything this year has been invaded by AI, has been invaded by this idea of Apple introduced their Apple Intelligence, Microsoft introduced Copilot, Google introduced Gemini. Everyone has, and here's the thing, right? I've said this before in a different video, but I feel like it bears repeating. Most all of this is actually just what it's always been. It's always been an algorithm. Like Google search has always been just an algorithm. So Gemini is not that new. Apple Intelligence, it's just Siri. Like she's just got a new brand. She just has a new brand. She just has a new, but it's the same algorithm that has always been under the hood. It's just slightly, I don't know, beefed up, maybe, if you want to call it that, and more from the internet. And so I think in that way, kind of worse. But a lot of the things that people are calling, AI is just the same bullshit algorithm it's always been. The internet has been on algorithms for well over a decade now. YouTube has been using algorithms to decide things for over a decade. This isn't new. They call it AI, but there's nothing intelligent about it. And it doesn't count as artificial intelligence because it's not making its own decisions. It's all algorithmic. It's all based on its own thing. And unfortunately, as someone who is learning Python, which is a language that is used a lot in AI, it's kind of hard and it kind of sucks because it's like all that you see is like how to use Python for AI, how to learn AI, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. I don't want to learn it. I don't need to learn it. And like, it's not that there aren't use cases for, maybe not, all of it. It's not that you can't use algorithms and things like that to help you learn things, right? There's always been websites that were like, here's what the best hashtags in the algorithm are. Here, for every type of thing. Here's the SEO, all of that is based on algorithm. They've just thrown the name AI into things to make you think that it's better than it is or that it's something different than it is. But it's not. It's all the same shit. And honestly, as a lot of other people have said, you cannot trust AI by itself. Even if you use it, and look, I'm not going to judge anyone who uses it for inspiration. I'm not going to judge anyone who uses it for ideation. Whatever. I'm not, because I'm not here to be judge, jury, and executioner. I just want people to realize, if you are going to use it for that, do not use it alone. Please recognize that this cannot be trusted by itself. Like, you have to have some common sense. But I also think the problem with a lot of this isn't any artist who uses it, because there have been cases. I've seen a video of someone who's like a traditional artist who's used it to tell different kinds of stories that they couldn't otherwise have told. Whatever, we can have that conversation of whether or not that's a legitimate use case. The problem that I have with it is that there are a lot of people who otherwise did not care about art, who did not care about writing, who did not care about music, who still don't care about those things, but who have decided to convince themselves that because of these technologies existing and because they know how to use them, that they are somehow artists. They are somehow people who make art and create art and, write and make music and all of these things. Like, it's very unfortunate the way that I think these tools have been weaponized by certain people who don't care about art, who don't care about... I've seen so many times the argument, oh, people said, when photography happened, people said, oh, that's not really art. And like, okay, that is not the argument that you think it is, because taking a photograph in something you could make really like gorgeous and really interesting and, something that's like so much, there is an art to it, versus typing into a computer something that is stealing ideas from other people and calling it your own. That is not the same thing. Like, and, look, maybe we will come to a point in 20 years where it's just so ubiquitous that we don't care anymore. As I have said, Pinterest is an unfortunate circumstance where there is a lot of examples of AI art on Pinterest. And I don't see that getting better anytime soon until we've either decided to outlaw it or it just dies on its own. But again, the algorithm that it's based on has kind of always been there. It's been something we've been dealing with for decades. So that is not going to go away. Maybe the brand of AI will go away because it will become so toxic. Possibly. And don't get me wrong, like, as someone who is a writer, as someone who is, an artist who makes, things like this, there's probably people who are going to say that, like, throwing paint onto a canvas and blowing it around with a blow dryer is not real art. And that's fine. I respect that. Even I would consider classical art like Michelangelo. That's art. This is fun and I love it and I think it's beautiful and it's artistic, but is it art? I don't know. And we can have a conversation about what it means to make art, what art is or it isn't. I still have debates all the time with myself about like whether or not I think writing is art. I think when you think of art, you think of painting and sculpture and even poetry and plays to an extent, but like novel writing, I don't think you think of in terms of like an art. Like if I said name an artist, you're probably not going to name a novelist. Maybe you would name, like if you're going to be real technical, you'd name like a musician because you call them artists. But like if I said name an artist like who makes art, you're probably going to think Michelangelo, Degas, you're going to think of Cabanal. You're not necessarily going to think of a writer first. And so begs the question, is writing art? Is this art? Is that art? Art is subjective. We all understand that. And again, I am not here to be judge, jury, and executioner on whether or not AI is or isn't art, whether or not using it for ideation purposes is or is not legitimate. Next up, and I don't even have to look at my notes for this, we have to talk about it. On one of my least favorite things, we got to talk about Adobe, right? Obviously, in the last video, I discussed the fact that part of the reason I was going to the affinity programs is because Adobe has had a lot of practices that I don't agree with. They've done a lot of things that made a lot of changes, really trying to push their own AI shit on everyone, but also use your work to train their AI. I got into a whole bunch of trouble this past year for their AI practices. So needless to say, I think there's a lot of reasons to dislike Adobe as well, specifically this year. Unfortunately, it is tricky because a lot of people who are professional designers feel very forced to use Adobe, forced to use their products because, they work in the professional design world or they work in a field where it's just it's the standard. It's the expectation. You just know how to use it. As I said, I've used it for better part of over 15 years now. And I am very comfortable with it. And there are certain things that with Affinity, as much as I appreciate it over Photoshop, there are some things that I look at and I'm like, oh God, I don't know how to do this. I don't even know if this is something you can do. Some of the features that are like standard features don't look right in Affinity for whatever reason. And so that's very frustrating. And yet you do what you got to do. And so unfortunately, it is one of those things that Adobe is one of my least favorite things. I'm very disappointed by Adobe. And at the same time, a lot of us feel trapped into it. Next up, one of the things I want to talk about that I think I delved. I talked about it a little bit in my favorites video. And this is such a weird thing to rant about now because it's been a long time. Oh boy, howdy. This year in particular, I feel like I have had more experiences where some of the design decisions that Apple makes that has floated down to everyone has really started to drive me up the wall. I am someone who enjoys wired headphones. I like wireless, but I like wired headphones too. A lot of times with wireless headphones, they just die so goddamn fast. Even if they sound great. When I bought this phone, I got the OnePlus Pro Buds to whatever their fucking name is. And I love them. They sound amazing. I mean, the first time I listened to them, I was listening to a song and I started tearing up because it was so beautiful. But it's hard to recommend them because I find their battery life kind of abysmal. Like, I find the battery life so lackluster. I'm sure it's like, it feels like I am not only am I constantly charging the buds themselves, I'm constantly charging the case. I was pretty sure that case was supposed to have like 30 hours, but I feel like it's pretty much every other day the case is at 10% and the buds are at 10%. So I have to charge them both. And so I have to switch to my wired earbuds. And so it's kind of like, well, I would rather just be on those, but then I have to buy the USB-C plug so it fits into my phone because OnePlus has decided to follow everyone else in making it so they don't have a fucking headphone jack. And then once you do that, then it's like, okay, well, if I ever need to charge my phone, I can't listen to music and charge my phone unless I have wireless, but my wireless headphones are dead. And I also can't charge a lot of this shit because for some reason, despite the fact that for the last decade, Apple has gotten rid of their USB-A ports in favor of USB-C, but everyone hasn't entirely got on board with that except some computer manufacturers have, but they still sell things in USB-A ports. And so I'm just sitting here like, okay, now I have to buy a bunch of fucking replacement USB cords because I need to make sure that they're in USB-C, but that doesn't always fucking work. And then I buy this used DVD player, but it's only a USB-A. And so I think, okay, I'll buy a little dongle to go inside my computer so I can use a USB-A. Oh no, Apple doesn't let their super drive run through a regular USB-A port. You have to have a certain type of port, or you have to use their little fancy switcher from USB-A to USB-C, and that's $20 for no good goddamn reason. And so I'm sitting here like, and the problem is, as much as people might want to say, well, then just leave Apple, don't use Apple anymore, it's everyone. Again, this is an Android phone, and this does not have hasn't had fucking headphone jacks for years. Samsung followed that almost immediately, getting rid of their headphone jack. Everyone got rid of their headphone jacks. Everyone went to USB-C. It is not specifically like, yeah, I'm bitching about Apple because they're the ones who made the decision and everyone else followed suit. It used to be your laptop, your very expensive laptop, had more than just 3 ports. And it had a DVD player. But then they decided that everything had to be thin. And so the DVD player went out. I'm honestly surprised they still include the goddamn FaceTime fucking camera in there. I don't know anyone who uses it. And I'm sure it takes up valuable space. And so it's just like, come on. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this thing that to this day, expensive pro laptops with the name Pro in them, don't have all the necessary ports. It's just, it boggles the mind. It's frustrating, it's tiresome, and yeah, it's a little late to be bitching about this because it's been over a decade, but it's pissed me off this year more than ever because I'm trying to get back into DVDs again. I recognize that all of these are like very first world problems. Real people have real problems going on, but it's still annoying. In that vein though, since we're talking about AI, since we're talking about plugs and cords and shit, we gotta talk about the Internet of Things. How every fridge, for some reason, has to be connected to Wi-Fi. Your stove is connected to Wi-Fi. Your dishwasher, your washing machine. Why do all of these things need to be connected to the internet? Please tell me. There is no reason. I don't want to hear it. Look, I'm not even fully in IT in that I've had the classes yet. But even I know connecting your washing machine to the internet seems like a bad idea. I don't need my washing machine to beep me on my phone when it's done. Do you think I don't get enough notifications that I want and desire more from my washing machine? Instagram has started a new feature where I get notifications when someone I follow comments on someone else's post that I have never seen before. Messenger has a new feature where I get notifications about a memory of a chat. These are things that don't need to exist. And you want me to get notifications from my washing machine because my washing is done? Or you want me to get notifications from the fridge because I'm out of milk? I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't like it. No. Stop it. This whole Internet of Things, everything is connected. The fact you can't even buy, I feel like I can't even remember the last time you could buy a non-smart TV. Because even your television has to be connected to the goddamn internet. It's one thing if you want like streaming services, if you want Roku, if you want Apple TV, if you want Fire Stick or Google or what the fuck ever. That's fine. But why does every television have to come with it built in? Maybe I just want a dumb TV. Did you ever think of that? What, like, it's so irritating. So I think next on my list would have been people, but I do have some thoughts, right? If I'm going to call out people that I dislike, I don't want to call out individuals, but I do want to call out certain types. I think we do have to talk about some people and some things that I am sick of seeing that I think we need to leave in 2024 is all of these drop shipping people. Every other fucking side hustles that you can have to make $100,000. This 24-year-old made $300,000 in a month by drop shipping. This 45-year-old made $300,000 this year. I don't want to hear it. Everybody and their grandmother has a thing where they buy shit from AliExpress and sell it on Etsy as their own original thing for like $30 more than it's worth. Or they sell it on Amazon. I saw a thing that to this day is painful, right? This person bought a clear acrylic tissue holder for like 20 cents on AliExpress, and they sell it for like $20 on Amazon. And they don't do anything to it. They don't make it, like, if you're going to do that, right? If you're going to be that girly who buys something cheap off of AliExpress, like a clear acrylic tissue holder, for the love of all that is unholy, at least do something with it. Make it interesting. Throw some goddamn glitter on it. Buy some fucking resin like everyone else and make it interesting. If you're gonna sell it for a huge markup, like, everyone does dropshipping. Walmart does it. Blah, 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 blah. I don't care. It needs to stop. And especially for the people who do this thing where it's like, oh, I sell crochet stuff that's homemade on Etsy, but it's actually shit that I bought from AliExpress and Alibaba, and I'm selling it as my own at a high markup that I crocheted. It's just... I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I am so tired of the drop shipping people. Okay? Just, I mean, look, again, if you're gonna do it, just do something that makes it your own. You know what I mean? Do something. If you're, I'm not gonna judge anyone for buying cheap shit from somewhere else and selling it. People do it all the fucking time. Like, obviously, I understand how supply chains work, right? But do something to make it interesting, please. Actual artists want to sell their shit on Etsy. You know what I mean? Like, if I was going to do it, I'd like to be able to sell actual artwork on Etsy. Not fucking some thing that you made it yourself. It's so irritating. It's so irritating. Like, at least just do me the decency of throwing some glitter on it. At the very least, do something. Don't just sell a fucking clear acrylic. Do something to it. You know what? On that note, we need to talk about so-called gurus and self-help. We need to talk about gurus and so-called self-help experts and everybody who's a fucking life coach. I'm not saying that I necessarily think that that's not legitimate. Maybe there is something legitimate to it. But you taking a 2-hour course from some other asshole and calling yourself a lifestyle coach or a life coach who's going to tell you how to grow your business. Listen, if you want to seek out someone's opinions or you want to ask them questions about how they did something, that is one thing. But charging people like $600 an hour to be their life coach is so insidious to me. And everyone who thinks they're a guru, and just please stop. Please stop. Please, for the love of Lucifer, stop. I cannot take it anymore. I cannot take everybody who thinks they are a life coach or a self-help expert based on nothing. Like, just because something worked for you. And again, it goes back to the manifesting thing. What is the source of this, right? What makes you the expert to teach other people this thing? There were a lot of people on YouTube who are promoting all of their, self-help stuff and all of their manifestation stuff. And it's like, okay, where's that working for you? I don't know. I'm not over here promoting it, so let's ask the audience. Like, I don't know. I'm really on a roll. I'm on a tear. Next up, for things that I am sick and tired of and we need to leave it in the past, is trad wives and monochrome moms. Like, I don't need to talk about why I dislike these things and why they are bad. But, like, they're bad. Let your child experience color. Like, what are we doing? Actually, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I think everyone needs to play with color a little bit more. Put on makeup that is not just a fucking neutral set. You know what's funny? I got a comment like a few weeks ago that someone was talking about how they really appreciated the fact that I like use color in my makeup and like really go out of my way to like make my makeup very colorful and dramatic. And yeah, let's face it, a little fucking clowny. Fine. Like, because I like color. I used to be very much one of those girlies who was like very goth and I only wear black and all of that. And I respect that. Actually, I think a lot of times there's a lot more artistry in that than people give it credit for. But the fact that the 2025 Pantone color of the year is what, mousse? Chocolate mousse? Ick. I'm sorry. Besides the people who are saying that it looks like shit, which like nobody's shit should look like that, the issue that I have with it is it's just beige. This is the color. Beige. Okay? This is not a color of the year that everyone should be painting their walls or designing shit around. Like, I don't want to see beige everywhere? Why have we let the monochrome moms win this? Give me color. Give me colors. I don't want beige. Also, you know what? Catholic core needs to be on this list too of things that need to stay in this past year. Or coming up past year. Oh, you know what? Actually, while I'm on the list of, I'm really on a tear. Content farms. We need to talk about these content farms. And I'm not calling out anyone specifically who's been in a lot of trouble recently. I am not calling them out. I am going to call out like 5-minute crafts. We've all talked about 5-minute crafts. We are going to talk about all of these things that create content specifically to reach a certain audience who will just watch videos for 500,000 hours and make these people billions, while people like me struggle to get seen because we're not doing all of these like edits that feel like they were done by an over-caffeinated raccoon. I feel as though, because sometimes I worry, I'm like, am I too chill? Am I just too, like, my favorite YouTubers are people who are chill. Angela Collier is an example of a YouTuber who just is chill. It's not overly, like, wacky. It's not all of that. You know, Jenny Nicholson, perfect example. She can be silly, but she's not like this, you know, woo. It's too much. We need to tone it down. Do you know how many times I'm like looking up how-to videos on YouTube and I'm trying to learn something, and it's always some dude who talks the fastest he can ever talk, who shows something that took 5 seconds. I don't know what the fuck he just did, because he did it, done. And I'm like, what happened here? What are we doing here? We need to chill out. I get it's all about retention. It's all about keeping eyes on your shit. But I feel like at a certain point, it's so overstimulating and overwhelming that it's literally exhausting. You know what I mean? It is exhausting and nauseating. I can't watch this kind of content. I can't watch the content where it's like a new clip and everything's changing every 5 seconds. It's team too much. And I hate it with a passion. For grown-ass adults, it's too much. It's too much. It's exhausting. God, I miss YouTubers like Stephanie Nicole, man. YouTubers who just said what they had to say. It's chill. It's too much. We need to chill out. It's exhausting to have to witness all the time. And I think it's ruined YouTube. It's ruined people's attention spans. Shorts have only made that worse. It's just, oh God, I hate it. I hate it so much. You know what I will say? I also very much, I think this probably goes without saying, very much on my least favorite things this year is everything about Project 2025. From start to finish, every little thing you do is tragic, and I just hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I wish it would go away, and it's just going to be our lives now, and I hate that even more. I hate when dystopian books become real life. We're going to be living in The Handmaid's Tale, basically. That's supposed to be a cautionary tale, not a to-do list. But here we are. You know what else I dislike? I dislike that there's certain channels on this platform that I have to know about against my will because everyone is talking about them. There's so much information that I just don't want to know. And I do, because you hear about them once and suddenly everyone is talking about them. I had no idea the channel Jubilee even fucking existed until everybody and their fucking grandmother started talking about it. And suddenly now it's all I fucking hear about. I would love to live in ignorance about some things, you guys. You know, oh God. I will say this, right? Next up, we have a television. Now, here's the thing. I have not watched a lot in the way of TV or films as of late. Films. So, like, it's hard to really talk about my least favorite things because I don't watch a lot of stuff, so I can't have least favorites. But I will say, I talked about this a little bit in my most favorites, but there was a lot about season 16 that I did not care for. And I've tried to very much couch it, right, in there are certain characters that I didn't like, right? Because I feel like if you say, I didn't like this person, that kind of makes it like it's a personal attack when it's really like, I don't like the way you present this character. Whether or not that's really you, I mean, you know, for one of them, it seems like it's really her because she's constantly getting, you know, into shit. But, like, whatever. It's just, I don't like the way you present your character. That is my business. That's my right. But I don't want to get on this attacking spree, right? So I'll just say season 16 was not for me. That is not a common opinion. I get that, and that's fine. For All Stars 9, though, I think what my issue is that there was all this kind of petty back and forth between Roxy and Angeria constantly snipping each other. And yet, it didn't mean anything in the end. I think it's very annoying that they did this whole twist with like the you can double, triple your badges, double diamond thing where someone could potentially knock someone else out of the top, but actually no, because the person who won it didn't have that many badges, so doubling them ended up meaning nothing because everyone else had like 20 badges. Like, I don't know. It's like, I do feel to a certain extent, and I get it, because Drag Race has been around for a long time. So they kind of have to, or maybe feel that they have to, add twists and turns to make things more interesting. And I get that. But I do feel like to a certain extent, sometimes when you do something and there's no payoff, it's kind of like, why did you do that? Why did we do this? Why did you make me sit through this when there was no payoff? And I guess, yeah, there was a little bit of a payoff of the Angeria versus Roxy thing because Angeria got the last laugh. But, like, it's almost not satisfying that if either of them had won, it wouldn't have been satisfying. It almost would have been more funny if someone else had snuck in the win because they had been trying to fight each other. So the fact that that has no, like, actual payoff as far as I'm concerned is kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I don't have a problem with Angeria winning. She's great. That's not the issue that I have with All Stars 9. The issue that I have with All Stars 9 is I just feel like it's like, okay. Like, it doesn't feel like any of the, like, things that they tried to do had any kind of satisfying ending. They do this, like, double diamond diva thing, and then T.S. Madison adds a, like, multiplier, but just like the last time, it didn't mean anything. Like, I just feel like they have all of these things that they want to do for, like, the dramatics of it for television, but when they don't have any kind of satisfying payoff, it's almost like, well, I guess you did that. Great. I mean, as far as other television goes, look, I've made my feelings about Has Been Hotel and my disappointments there clear. I made a whole video discussing my disappointments with the season for 42 whole minutes. So, like, I think I've made my points clear. Was that this year? I guess it was this year. So, like, you know, I feel like the show has been nerfed. I also feel like, I will say this, I do find, and I guess this is kind of just the nature of YouTube, but I do find it's kind of disappointing that we have created, and this is true of a lot of things, we've created this scenario in which, as a YouTuber, you almost have to be one of the first ones to talk about a subject. Because if you're not, then nobody cares what your opinion is about it. And so you don't have time to really sit with something and really think about it. I talked in my last video about how I found that upon rewatching the 8th episode of Hell of a Boss, the full moon episode, that while I didn't like the full moon episode when I first reviewed it, upon rewatching, and I was like, actually, you know, if you skip around the characters that I don't like, it's a fine episode. It's actually pretty fun. I like the engagement between Blitz and Fizz and their friendship kind of coming back. And there's other things that I found kind of funny. I think the fight between the Cherubs and the IMP team was kind of funny and kind of stupid. There's a lot of things that I think are enjoyable upon rewatch that if you just give your initial snap judgment, you've made this video where, well, this is my opinion on it right now, but I don't really have a chance to sit with my feelings. Like when I reviewed Good Omens, I had had time to sit with my feelings on the season. I had rewatched all of those episodes a lot. I had rewatched them like 5-10 times at that point. So I'd really had time to sit with my feelings on them, to give my opinions on them in a more deep and meaningful way. When I wrote my original video on the first season of Good Omens, I had time to really sit with my feelings on it. And, you know, when I eventually did the review of the book and the review of, you know, all of these things that I've done reviews of, I feel like when you have time to sit with your feelings on them, they can grow and change, and you can kind of, your views might change on something as you get a chance to really sit with it. But I feel like, unfortunately, we've created this world in which whoever reviews it first is the one that everyone wants to watch, and then nobody else matters because they got to it first, so I don't care what you think. And it's like, but that creates a scenario in which nobody has time to really consider what they think about something. You just have to have a snap judgment, and if you ever change your mind or realize that what you originally thought about something is not actually how you feel, there's no nuance. And that's kind of the problem when we talk about how, you know, there's no nuance anymore on the internet, or at least it feels like a dying art, because a lot of times you want people to make a video talking about something as quickly as possible. One of the critiques of Jenny Nicholson's Evermore video is that it took her 18 months to make the video. And so people who support Evermore and Evermore themselves love to say that she took so long to make the video. And it's like, but you need to be able to sit with things and think about things and consider things. You can't just react to something and make a quick video and hope that it just doesn't work that way. I think it's a very disappointing way to do things. Yes, live reactions to things can be interesting, but I do feel like we need to leave room and leave space for people to watch something again, take in things that they didn't notice the first time, to really sit with things and contemplate how they feel about things. A lot of times, the more I think about Hazbin Hotel, the more I'm like fascinated by like the things that I think it doesn't say, and the more I'm fascinated by the things that I think are hidden underneath it all. But if you just give a snap judgment of like, well, this just came out 2 minutes ago, I now have to review everything and have an opinion now, you end up with this situation where you're just like, I don't even know how I feel about it. I haven't had time to digest and sit with it and really think about what this means to me. And I feel like, especially if you're not a known channel, if you're more of a smaller channel, you feel that pressure even more, because at least if you're a known channel who talks about certain things, I think people are more willing to give you time. They're more willing to let you take a little bit of time to talk about these things. You know, something like the channel IMHO, who does Drag Race reviews. Their reviews are not immediately after the episode, but they are a more established channel, and people let them get away with it. And that's not like a read. People let them get away with that because they understand that it takes time. Something like Race Chaser, that is a hugely successful show, and a lot of times they're not reviewing the episode immediately after they air. They're letting them have space with it. They're letting them consider and really appreciate these things. It's frustrating sometimes that there is this expectation on YouTubers, and part of the reason that I didn't ever actively try to be a makeup girly is because a lot of times when there was new releases of makeup, there is this feeling that you have to try and review it and keep up with it like everyone else, except these other established channels are kind of at an unfair advantage because they're getting this makeup 6 months before everyone else. So they've had time to play with this makeup and review it before it's even come out for the rest of us. And they've already made their review. And so who cares what I think about a palette that came out this week, because someone else did a talk about it 6 months ago. And I feel like that's created a situation that is very, very difficult. And so you either have to decide that you don't care how recent or relevant something is when you talk about it, or you have to find a way to have 10,000 thoughts at once and have an opinion and stick with it, and you can't change your mind ever, because otherwise you have to make a retraction video. And it's just like, and that's part of the reason that I don't doing reviews of shows like Hell of a Boss and Has Been and all of that. It's not really satisfying as much as I like talking about them, because if I'm not going to do them within 20 minutes of the episode coming out, because I've got other things to do in my life, who's going to watch that? Because 20 other people have done a review of it or reaction. And so it's like, well, what is worth it to me to make those kinds of videos when, even if I've had time to like think about it, and I've had a couple days to watch it once or twice and all of that, and my opinion changes on it, I didn't do it the next day or the day of, and so you're shit out of luck, bud. 20 other people have already talked about it. It's done. And that's like the cycle of the internet is so exhausting. The cycle of just, you're in, you're out, it's like, you know, what Heidi Klum always but said with like Project Runway and fashion. I think that's very much true of the internet in general, and the internet's only made that shit worse. Trends are constantly in and out. And I don't like to be someone who follows trends. I don't follow fashion trends. I don't follow makeup trends. I'm still doing my makeup apparently like everyone did in 2016. This is what I want to look like. I'm not following anyone's trends. But when it comes to YouTube, there is that feeling like I have to, because otherwise, who's going to watch your content? It's like you have to both make the trend, but also follow the trend, but also predict the trend. And it's just like, you know, I think by far the worst TV moment of this year was election night. That was inarguably the worst television moment in recent memory since 2016, the last time this happened. So, and then to watch the follow-up be every single fucking Democrat trip over themselves to blame wokeness, a word that I never want to fucking hear in my life again from a white person, because you don't know what it means. You're using terms that do not belong to you, and you're using them wrong. And it's embarrassing. Signed, a fellow white person. Stop it. I don't want to hear what you think woke means, okay? I'm tired of it. Everything, because it's become a dog whistle now too, right? Because you say woke, because you can't say we focus too much on trannies this year, we focus too much on the gays, we, you know, supported critical race theory, except no, you fucking didn't on any of those things. But like, you know, it's so tiresome watching these people who are supposed to support progressive things trip over themselves to blame progressive things the second it gets in their way. The second. It is embarrassing. You know why you can't fucking win an election to save your goddamn lives? Because you stand for nothing. I may not like Republicans, but at least they know what the fuck they believe in. And it's a lot of racist bullshit, but at least they know. Democrats stand for something until the very second it gets in their way. And they will change their goddamn minds the second you look even slightly like you're gonna lose them anything. And yet you wonder why you still lose. Because you change your mind. You don't stand for anything. And I'm talking as someone who's a fucking registered Democrat. When you stand for nothing, you lose every fucking time. Because let's face it, Democratic or liberal policies are way more popular in this country than most Republican policies. So why do they continue to lose? Because you don't know how to fucking stand up for yourself. Truly, truly the Democratic way. Let me just say a couple more things not related to this. I'm going to skip to my next thing. I'm going to talk about music. I don't typically listen to music that I don't like. I don't make a habit of listening to music that I don't enjoy. I will say that I have occasionally been a fan of Katy Perry, so I did try and listen to her new album. It was not good, so that would be on my least favorites. I don't think there has been an album that I had any interest in since Prism, or what was it? Witness, I think, was the last one that was like semi-interesting. I didn't care for Smile either, so like this isn't that big of a deal to me. I don't really care. I'm not really that much of a fan that I'm that disappointed. And again, I don't listen to music that I don't like. If I listen to something that everyone else is interested in and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, maybe I'll give it a second listen later and learn. Again, nuance, giving it time. You can learn, hey, actually, you know what? I really do like this. I didn't really care for the whole Brat Summer thing when that was going on. But listening to some of these songs again, I'm like, you know what? Actually, these are kind of fun. Last but not least, I want to talk about some of my least favorite art projects and my least favorite art project and my least favorite YouTube video. Now, this is kind of tricky, right? Because I actually really, really love a lot of the videos I made this year. I love a lot of the art projects I've made this year. But there have been some that were not the best on both fronts. And usually if I don't like an art piece that I made, I'm pretty quick to cover it and start over. For an example of, art pieces that I really didn't care for that I'm kind of trying to cover were my All Stars 9 art pieces. This yellow-green one that just looks like yellow, I'm covering it. This, rainbow that looks like kale, I'm going to paint over this and do it again. This blue, yellow, orange monstrosity that I absolutely hate, I'm going to paint over and do again. These two I've already painted over. This one I've got to paint over as well. So like, if I don't like an art piece, I will definitely, I'm not afraid to paint over them with a little bit of gesso and start over. That said, I will say, I think my least favorite of all time art projects that I did this year, and it's difficult because there were some that were just, not as good as I had hoped they would be. But I think my original Crowley and Aziraphale failures was just really, really bad. I just don't like how those ended up. And obviously I cleaned them and fixed them and redid them, and I loved how the finished pieces came out now. But the original versions were not great. So let's face it, not everything's going to be a winner. Unfortunately, some things just aren't going to be great and you're not going to like them. And what's great about art is you can always start over. You can always decide that something that maybe you did like originally, you don't like anymore. As far as my least favorite videos, generally speaking, I really like all of the videos I made this year. I put a lot of effort into my videos and my makeup and all of these things. I've put a lot of effort into growing I really, really try hard to make my content as interesting as I can to as wide an audience as I can. I understand that I kind of just have a niche, in general, just me being me. But if I were to pick a least favorite, it's a toss-up. Because on the one hand, I was originally going to say my portfolio video where I remade my graphic design portfolio because it wasn't seen by anyone. It didn't seem like anyone was really interested in that the way I thought it would be interesting. I loved getting the chance to work on design again. I hadn't done design stuff in years and I hadn't redone my portfolio in a while, so I liked making all of these things and posting them to my website and things like that. And so unfortunately, I was going to put that as my least favorite video. But as I was doing this video and as I was thinking about kind of my review of the full moon episode, there is a little tiny part of me that does feel like that is one of my least favorite episodes or videos that I've made, just for the sheer fact that I don't feel like I gave myself the proper time to really consider how I felt about that episode. I did this whole thing where I was like, what do I feel about the full moon episode? I don't really like it because it's got these characters that I don't like. And then of course now I've come to watched it again and I do kind of like it once you skip over those characters and those scenes. And actually, funny enough, I liked their cameos in the apology tour video or episode, and I think the reason I liked that is because they didn't fucking talk. Yeah. I actually have some ideas for where I want my channel to go in future, which I will be discussing in my last video of the year. Yeah, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what your least favorite things are. Let me know if you agreed with anything on this list or disagreed. If you want to fight me in the comments about what you think your least favorite things are or why my least favorite things are wrong, by all means, I'm always happy to hear it. You can become a Patreon, you can become a member, you can subscribe, you can like, you can do all the things. Thank you so much. Goodbye. I actually feel like I've gotten more subscribers since I stopped telling people to subscribe. I don't know what that's about. Make of that what you will. People don't like to be told what to do, I think.